Doing this, I learned it's not here, you're an apple, go. There's regular improv and then there's structured improv.
Right.
This is structured improv because you know your story, you know the characters, you know how they're related.
Right.
So you're not just flying by the seat of your pants. And again, once you start listening to one another, then your scene partner is going to tell you exactly what you need.
Right.
There are times I go up on lines, and I've been the inspector for 40 years,
Right.
and I'll go, oh, I forgot to say that. Okay, well, they don't know that, so it's fine. And in a scene with somebody else, if you're listening to one another, you're going to bring the other person right back to it, or you're going to make something even better.
100%.
You know, the audience comes up with great things, and I write it in.
Everybody has a story to tell that makes them extraordinary, and that's what this podcast is all about. Welcome back to Conversations with Caitlin.
Welcome to another episode of Conversations with Caitlin, where I interview ordinary people doing absolutely extraordinary things. My guest today is one of my dearest friends, a fellow performer, and most importantly, an incredible entertainment entrepreneur. My guest today is Jay Joseph. He has over 40 years of singing, emceeing, performing, and yes, running a murder mystery company. It's about to get juicy, people. So without further ado, please welcome Jay Joseph.
Hello, Caitlin.
Hello, darling. I do love a little pinky in the morning. Yes. Oh my goodness. Welcome to the show, doll.
Thanks. It's great to be here.
I love it. So we have been friends, I feel like, for a lifetime. In our past life, we were, I think, sisters. But I digress. So
You were always stealing my shoes.
I was. You do have impeccable taste, darling. So one of the things that I've always just found incredible with you is you have been in what I would like to say the entertainment performing game. Not only have you had like an incredible career as a human being, but you've also created this business that is just truly one of a kind, and having the privilege to perform with you and work with you is just, it's incredible to me, just on an entrepreneurial side. So I would love if you would give kind of your origin story, how you came to be this fabulous performer and also the founder and owner of A Touch of Mystery.
Well, thank you for asking me to do that. And I'm going to start by saying it's an absolute pleasure having you to work with and play with.
Thank you.
Okay. So if we go way back to the beginning, it would be my very first performance when I was 3 years old in Santa Monica. I grew up in LA, and my mom took my sister and I to POP on Santa Monica, and she went into a store and lost me. And she came out, and I was dancing the flamenco, having money thrown at me. My first performance.
The rest is history. You're like, I make money.
I made $13. You know, come on. 3 years old, I made $13.
Sign him up.
She should have known. She had a ham on board.
She did.
Then from that, I sang in school. I sang in choirs. And then from that, in theater arts in high school. And we did 2 musicals a year. And then so I thought I was going to go into TV and film.
Right.
So I started going that route. I had 2 pilots. The first pilot I was filming, the writers went on strike.
Oh, love that. Don't we love when that happens?
The second one, the actors went on strike. So I said, okay, I'm not supposed to be doing this. So I started singing.
Oh my gosh.
And I just started doing nightclub work and studio work. And I had my first recording contract that went absolutely nowhere. but I wrote a couple songs and had a good singing partner. And then from there, just went back to theater. Hardcore theater, musical theater.
The failing forward of performing and the finding your niche and finding your way, it's so remarkable. For those of you that I have the great fortune of knowing that have been doing this professionally, it's not linear. And
not at all.
What you think it will be and what it will actually be, you know, sometimes the two kind of meet in the middle, but it's usually very, very different.
Absolutely. I mean, my height is perfect for film and television, so that would have been the right way to go, you know? I mean, you bring an apple crate with you, and there you have it, right?
I am, honey. That's right.
So when I went into moving to Vegas, which I tried twice, and it never happened, so I came.
Yeah.
And I was getting cast based on talent, and then it was, oh no, your height's not good enough. You need to be, the showgirls are this tall, this is what it goes. Same thing happened in New York. I would much rather be typed out in a minute.
Right, right.
My funniest story, and I'll get to how I got into the business,
I love it.
Is that I went to New York, I moved to New York, had an agent right away. I kept getting into auditions by appointment. I was equity eligible when that still existed.
So exciting.
I was doing summer stock, and I got called in for Grease in 1994.
I love it.
But I was doing Oklahoma and I had a mustache. So I came in from Bucks County to the audition. There's a picture of me without my mustache. Casting directors are so funny because the guy looked at my picture, looked at me and said, "You have a mustache." I said, "Yeah, I'm playing Ike in Oklahoma right now." "You have a mustache." I said, "Okay, well, there's a picture of me right in front of you without a mustache." "You have a mustache." I literally stood there. "Do you want me to sing?"
Love it. Could we get past this
Please.
so we can get to the meat and potatoes of it, which is the talent?
And the funny thing is that one of the guys that was doing summer stock with me went years later, went to an audition for Kiss of the Spider Woman. First national. They put him through 5 songs. So you think, okay, I'm getting someplace.
Totally.
Ask him to walk outside. And somebody from behind the desk came out and said, "Where have you been? We just cast this yesterday." And he said, "Why did you put me through 5 songs?" "Well, we just wanted to make sure that you were consistent." Right?
Oh, it's the politics of it all and the just weirdness. I mean, on the flip side, you've heard the story about how they found Flo from Progressive, right?
Oh, yeah.
She literally was walking down the street. They had already cast someone, and they're like, "Are you a performer?" And she's like, "Well, yeah, I'm not really doing anything." "Hey, just come in for some." It's it's such the Wild West like mentality when it comes to performing. Still, I feel like even in today's world with all of the tools accessible, you're finding artists. I feel like now more than ever you can find artists a lot easier, right? With their YouTubes and their TikToks and all of those things. So then, Jay, remind me how you came back to Vegas. Was it Chicago or was it you were in one of the tours?
I was in New York.
Okay.
But I moved to New York from LA.
Okay.
To do theater, thinking I was going to be in New York doing theater.
I love it.
But if you're not on Broadway, you're on tour.
Right.
So I lived there a year and I was there 4 months.
Oh my gosh.
Because I was doing summer stock, then I went on American Hawaii cruises.
Right.
And then my last audition there was for Beauty and the Beast.
Oh my gosh.
My agent couldn't get me an appointment time, so I got online at 4:30 in the morning. I was number 600 at 4:30 in the morning.
Love that.
And I stood there. The guy comes down, stage manager comes down, 8 o'clock.
Yeah.
We're only seeing the first 600.
Oh.
I was like, okay, that's it.
Great.
I'm not doing cattle calls anymore.
Great.
So I moved to Pennsylvania and did theater out there for a while, and then I was on a cruise ship singing, broke up with my partner over the phone, and then I said, okay, I'm a West Coast boy, I'm moving back.
Let's go.
And so I packed up my car, I said, I'm either moving to Palm Springs, I'm either going back to LA, or I'll try Vegas. And I came to Vegas. In the first week I had an apartment, I had 2 commercials, and then was cast in my first production show.
See.
And then I was cast as Billy Flynn in a national tour of Chicago.
Which is amazing.
Yeah.
Vegas is a great hub and a great base for entertainers.
Great base.
You know, and I feel like a lot of people call Vegas home and work all over the world just like you did.
Yeah.
So, murder mystery.
Yeah.
When I first met you, we were doing another project together, and you're like, "Oh, I have this company," and I'm like, "Oh, that's nice," as we do, right? As entertainers, we small talk, but it is such an interesting world. Like, I think I'm walking into this like Clue type thing, right? like Jay's gone online and found this. No, people, no. So tell our listeners how A Touch of Mystery came to be, and really dive into the work that you do of developing these stories.
Sure.
Because I think that is the piece that blew my mind when I first met you. I was like, this man knows no end when it comes to creativity.
Well, I was living in LA, I had a manager, and he said, I want to do something different for a party. And out of my mouth comes, I'll write a murder mystery. Where the heck did that come from? Because I've never done that before.
Right.
I've been a journalist and I was writing. So I said, okay, I'll write one. And I wrote one, and it took off. And we started doing, Bill Press was running for insurance commissioner in LA. He did it as a fundraiser. Just word of mouth, kept going. It was corporates.
Wow.
Then I was in property management, and I did it for the residents as events. And then when I moved here, we got corporate events going on here. And then Royal Caribbean hired us. They took 7 shows, 7 stories, and we were on their ships for 2 years on 7 ships, where we taught the crew staff how to play the characters.
Oh,
and the cruise director played the inspector.
And I'm sure the guests just loved it.
It was a lot of fun.
these do surprisingly well with the most unlikely people.
Oh, yeah.
You and I have walked into some rooms and I'm like, Jay, they're going to hate it. And they end up being the most engaged guest, loving it. It's just like almost like that little icebreaker.
Exactly.
You know, we're gonna tell the story and we're gonna let you decide.
Yeah.
So, how many murder mysteries do you think you've done in the years that you've owned this company?
Done? Oh, wow.
Thousands?
Maybe 1,000.
Okay.
I've got 23 stories now.
Oh my
And the way that
gosh.
they come about is I sit down and I write the characters first. That's how the stories come about.
I love it.
I write the characters. From the characters, the story evolves. I'm sure I'm on Homeland Security's list because I type in, how can someone die from? But then if they look me up, they know I've got a murder mystery company. But it's wild. It's like I go into timelessness and I just start channeling through the information. And, I love the period pieces.
Yes.
The one that we're getting ready to do next weekend. It was the first one I've written in at least 5 years.
Wow.
And I sat down and just started writing the characters, based on who killed Caesar.
I love it.
Togas and Temptations. I was thinking, how is this going to come about? I don't know anything about the history. And I started Googling, and I just started pulling in things from real history and then embellishing on it, creating new characters. The character you're playing is a made-up one.
Hilarious.
And her name is based on, when you write in, what would a female comedian or jester have been known as? And the name came out.
So funny. So are these characters, because once we start working with you, we kind of get a flow, right? There's a type, there's a vibe, there's this. Where do these people come from? Are these based on people you've known throughout your life? Are they like The Conjuring, or like the exceptional hyper of people that you've maybe worked with in the past, or people you've interacted with?
I've had some that I've written because they were on my mind, and I'm writing the character for them. I'm writing the character. With Royal Caribbean, I had to spit one out a month.
Wow.
So I had to create a formula. And because the crew staff was 3 women and 2 men, it was the Ice Queen, the colorful one, and the ditz.
Okay,
And for the guys, it was the playboy and the nerd.
Right.
And that's how it started.
Yeah.
And so the formula kind of stays the same, but I mix and match. But I do take from people, maybe not consciously, but if I'm thinking I'm writing for someone, I'm going to write some of their characteristics into it.
I love it. And you said something earlier that I didn't know about you. So you did journalist work, which makes total sense, because I'm like, how does he write these with such, and the jokes and the timing? I mean, I know that a lot of that is like the actors that you curate to play those, knowing their kind of their comedic timing. But
because the shows take on a life of their own.
Oh.
I write one thing and I see, so like when we do our first table read,
right.
I say, okay, this is how I see the character.
Totally.
But I don't want 2 actors to play the role exactly, because everybody brings something to the table.
Yes.
That's what happens, is it inherently changes. We change one cast member and the whole show changes, because the chemistry changes, and then the audience will change as well.
It's so amazing, and I've had the privilege of witnessing that and doing enough of these with you that it's very true. Different cast, different day.
Yeah.
I know you have judged pageants and emceed them. Different judge, different day. We always tell the girls, well, it's the same with these shows. I mean, you really don't know. And it also, I think, in my perspective, it depends on the groups.
Yeah.
So talk a little bit about that. How did you become kind of this? If you type in murder mystery, your company comes up.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't matter where you are in the world, really.
Thankfully.
So how has that kind of come to be?
It's been word of mouth. It's been great SEO. I mean, Karen Michaels, social butterfly, social media butterfly. She's been my SEO guru and also social media. So it's been word of mouth. We've grown organically. I've had the company for 40 years.
Wow.
And I won't pay for advertising. It's just grown word of mouth. And I want it to grow organically. Because you pay for advertising, you pay for placement, someone's going to bump you.
Exactly.
If they pay more.
Right.
So it's been just hard work and word of mouth and great people to work with. I'm not the company. It's everybody that works with me.
Right.
So we have a good reputation. You
really do. And the clientele you get, I mean, can you kind of talk about some of the companies? I mean, it is amazing.
Well, we've had some Fortune 500 companies. We've had ones we've had to sign NDAs for, so we can't discuss them.
Right.
But they've been great. We've been at Lowry's the Prime Rib for going to be 20 years now.
Wow.
And this is our 19th annual Halloween. Next year's 20 years. It's crazy.
That's so wild.
And we have the restaurants. Firelight Barn as well is one of them in Henderson. And then we've had Fortune 500, we've had smaller companies, we've had local companies, we had birthday parties. So the companies, they find us and they just say, like the one we're doing next week, would you have a problem doing a show here?
Right, exactly.
No, not at all.
No, yeah. The company has certainly taken you to unbelievable places.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, places
Yeah.
you probably wouldn't have even imagined. So, as an entrepreneur and a performer, talk to me a little bit about the challenges that you've faced, we talked career and it's
Right.
like, you're like up and down and you're over here and I'm never doing this again. And then next
Right.
week you're like, I got the audition. So I feel like being an entrepreneur is a very similar experience
Completely.
from people that I talk to. So
Yeah.
would you share a little bit about what that, like starting this company and just the evolution? I mean,
Sure.
what are those behind the scenes things that people would never think about?
Well, when I started the company, I was working a day job. So I let it build until I got to the point where I didn't have to work the day job. And there have been times in between where, because you never know, from year to year, from month to month, I
Right.
don't know. Someone says, how many are you going to do this month? Have no idea. I don't know. You
Right.
just don't know. I have some bookings already for next year. I
Right.
have some bookings for December. Some Januaries are full. February's full, then it's dead, and then it comes back.
Right.
You just don't know. So you always, for me, I always like to have something to fall back on. Mm-hmm. So I have
great
my hands in
advice.
very many pots.
Yep.
And I swear the best thing I ever did was take typing in junior high. Mr. Ketchum, we called Mr. Ketchup.
Mr.
And
Ketchup, I
he
love
always
it.
wore bow ties because he was wearing a long tie one day and he was rolling the paper in and his tie went in with it.
Oh my gosh.
But it's the best thing I could ever do because I wound up leaving. I typed over 100 words a minute, and so I had admin jobs all the time. And thankfully for that, I was able to subsidize.
And I think that's the artist's life, isn't it? It's always, you've got to have some other things in your back pocket to really fill the time. And I mean, we're talking to somebody who's very successful, people. You've done this for 40 years. You have a great reputation. You're getting ready, word on the street, to maybe go back out on ships, which is incredible.
Yeah, we are. Michael and I, Michael Kazurik,
Yeah.
with Sharp Travel, we're going to put together murder mysteries for groups that want to go out
Love it.
and have just a murder mystery.
See, and it's so fun. I think the camaraderie you create and kind of that taking away that corporate stuffiness, right? We see it all the time with these companies.
Yeah.
What is that feedback you get from a lot of your clients, afterwards? Like, what is that takeaway? Because we know that the arts play such an integral role in life. But I think, people maybe don't often think of the fact that something like this with a team can change the dynamic for better.
I mean, the mysteries are set up for automatic team building. If they don't want to do a team building event, then they just do it as entertainment.
Right.
But what makes it different for us is we can weave up to 5 of their guests into the story and create extra clues. So we connect them to the characters. And they play around with us. I mean, some of the companies will say, stay away from this guy, he's the VP.
Right.
Don't
Don't ask him anything salacious.
Stay in the land of innuendo, and he's the one who pulls somebody on his lap.
Right.
You just never know what you're going to get. But then when we bring somebody up as an extra suspect, they love it because one of their own is there and playing with them. And they're always, some of them are really nervous, oh, I can't do this. And then the questions that come to them are more personal or of a business nature. And so then
Right.
they just jibe them and they have fun with it. But the one that we did the other night, there was a gentleman we brought in and he completely, it was a 1920 storyline and he went right into it.
Yeah. He was so funny. And it's, so I also think, there's something to be said about the ability to connect people and bring people together. And so when you're writing these stories, you kind of mentioned a formula earlier.
Mm-hmm.
How do you really gauge, what people will be drawn to? Is it just because you've done this for so many years, or do you have kind of like every group is so unique and different, you just kind of tailor it to them?
What I do is I write the story because I want to write it.
Right.
All right? And it will find its audience. So when a client comes to me, I'll say, here's our library. These are the stories that are most requested.
Right.
Tell me about your group. What's your demographic like? What are their personalities like? Okay, these stories might fit in great with them. Do you want to do a period piece? This is also available. I can customize anything. So if they say, well, we really like Lethal Libations, but we don't want to do 1920s, great, I have a current day version of it.
Perfect.
So I can customize and tweak to fit and put in some business information too. One of the things we did for a client was they wanted it was an HR event.
Oh,
so
boy.
what they wanted to do, they wanted it to be educational. So at the end, we said, okay, introduce the cast, and then said, all right, this is an educational experience. So, Caitlin, we want you to come up and we want you to do the scene with Greg. And we want you, here's the scene, you're going to do the same exact scene that you saw earlier. Bring it to a different fruition. And then it became educational.
Oh my gosh. And it can be a teaching tool.
Absolutely.
That's totally right. Like
because
how
you can teach people how to listen. Because when you do improvisation, you're teaching the best way for somebody, a salesperson, is to really learn how to listen. Just like when I'm on a call with a client. Okay, so what's important to you? What's your demographic like? So I listen to them, and then I can tailor what they want.
And it's so fascinating. It's so exciting because I think, you know, in the world we live in, right? You really can do and be anything at this point. I mean, you've got Mr. Google that can tell you how to do something. But what would be your advice to artists when they are looking to diversify their work or looking to combine kind of that entrepreneurial spirit and passion? Sure. Like what are the things you feel make this so successful?
One thing I would say is don't try to fit in to something. Because I spent a lot of time trying to fit in and make things work, and things are either going to work or they're not going to work. And when they work is when you're being honest and true to yourself. That's what I found.
I love that.
So if you can find what you excel in and then find how you can excel in whatever it is you want to do, the most important thing is to be different. I could go to a lineup. I could go to an audition and there would be 6 5'8" actors standing there with dark hair, which now I'm silver, with dark hair and brown eyes, but what I learned is not one of them is me. Not one of them has my spark. So if I'm standing there going, oh my God, there's 6 other people here, they're all doing the same thing, and I do that, I'm working against myself. As opposed to just saying, okay, there are 6 people here total, and we all look similar, but none of them are me. So I just need to be integral with myself, be honest, and let my light shine. That's what I've learned. Now, when you're first starting out and you're trying so hard and you want it so bad, you know, you're going to learn things along the way, but that's what I've learned.
I love that. Like leaning into your uniqueness, you know, what makes us different is something that makes us special. It's not weird. It's not strange. And I don't know about you, Jay, but every year as I get older, I'm just so like on par with that. I love if I look a little different or my voice, you know, I've always had a lower voice. And you know, as a performer, especially for women, I mean, that is like...
Yeah, but you have a character voice.
You know what I mean?
Which is perfect. I personally would much rather play character roles because they're more fun.
But it took me probably a good decade. I was probably like 25, 26 when I was like, lean into this because these steal the show. Yeah. These have the most fun, you know, things like that. It's very like leaning into your gifts. I love what you shared with that because it's true. And that's life. You want to be in, you know, whatever XYZ business. They're seeing the same person come in every day in the suit and the tie and the this and the that. Yes. And it's so important. And I think one of the most interesting things about what you do is the talent you source. You have a very deep pool of people. So talk a little bit about that. If people are looking to get into murder mysteries, because it's kind of scary. Like the first time you were like, do you want to do this with me? I was like, I don't think I'm going to be good at this.
I would have felt the exact same way if someone would have come to me. Because improv? What do you mean improv? No, scared the heck out of me.
Give me the script with the lines.
Exactly.
I want to do.
And give me the direction. And you know. And then from doing this, I learned it's not here you're an apple, go. there's regular improv and then there's structured improv.
Right.
This is structured improv because you know your story, you know the characters, you know how they're related.
Right.
So you're not just flying by the seat of your pants. And again, once you start listening to one another, then your scene partner is going to tell you exactly what you need.
Right.
There are times I go up on lines, and I've been the inspector for 40 years, you know, and I'll go, oh, I forgot to say that. Okay, well, they don't know that, so it's fine. And in a scene with somebody else, if you're listening to one another, you're going to bring the other person right back to it, or you're going to make something even better.
100%.
You know, the audience comes up with great things, and I write it in. Because
we keep it forever. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
But yeah, to people that are just starting out in improv, don't let it scare you. Really use your listening skills. And because now we're a combination of scripted and improv. Mm-hmm. And the script came from years of improv, and I just scripted the improv.
Right.
And then we say, okay, it's got to be something like this. Because I used to write and say, here's what needs to come out. There's your beginning, your middle, and your end. Go.
Right.
And people did.
Right.
So I would someone just getting started, I'd say trust yourself. Trust what is natural for you. Mm-hmm. You'll be surprised. Because on the ships, when we taught the crew staff to do it, the ones that were the most nervous stole the show every single time.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
It's so true. And so with the performers, what is the type? I mean, I feel like you have such a robust group of people.
Yeah.
So in addition to the improv, talk a little bit about that. Where are you finding these people?
So
what are their backgrounds?
It's been word of mouth. It's been auditions. It's been, thank God, we have such a great community theater out here.
Yep.
A pool of wonderful actors and there's been some that I've gone to and they say, it's not for me.
Right.
I can't do this. I'm not interactive.
Right.
Let me stand on the stage, say my lines.
And let me be, and love me from afar,
Exactly.
right?
But a lot of people, you've referred people to me, other people have referred, so it's been like that. The one thing that I'm really happy about is that I don't cast on type. Mm-hmm. I cast on talent. So when I had gone to Las Vegas Little Theater and I directed Don't Dress for Dinner.
Yes.
And Gil and Bray walked in for the audition for the chef, Suzette, which is written for a svelte, really sexy character.
Yeah.
But there's already Suzanne, who's a very sexy character.
Right.
She walked in and just stole, and she's at that time was a plus size.
Right.
And it worked.
Right.
I cast her, and then I cast John C. Hughes as her husband.
I love it.
Okay.
We love John.
So I had interracial relationship there. The script was written for 30-somethings. I cast 50-somethings because I wanted the depth.
Yeah.
And it was the first show in 35 years that had been extended.
Isn't that amazing?
You know, it was also the first play I'd directed. So I was a little bit nervous about how to do it, but I broke it down the same way that I did with doing the mysteries. But the people that come to us to audition, like I said, I don't want two people to play the role the exact same way because everybody will bring something natural to it.
Yep.
If there's something specific I want, I'll direct it in. But I give actors, and I think I give actors a lot of leeway to show me what they want to bring to it. I've had actors that are in a musical that can't sing a lick, but I've taught them how to sing the song with intention.
Right. You have this innate ability to coach. You do know how to get the best out of people, and I think that's a skill, right? That's not just a business skill, that's a life skill, and it really does make the difference. And I think to your point, I mean, you get the best out of people. Now, okay, we have to go down this rabbit hole because you know I'm going to ask.
Okay.
What is the wildest, weirdest gig you've ever had? I want to know funny, wild, weird. What was one of those gigs that you're like, I will, till the day I don't do this anymore, I will, this one will
There will be
mark.
two. I'm going to give you two. One shorter than the other. The first one is when a client chooses not to tell their people they're coming to a murder mystery. Okay, and these are both fall into that. And we're doing for engineers, and engineers can be very dry.
Oh boy, can't they?
It was summer in Santa Barbara, so it was very hot. They'd been out golfing all day and drinking, and they came to the event, and they wanted their CEO to come up as an extra suspect. We're doing Death by Chocolate, 1940s.
Oh boy.
The gentleman comes up and sits down, and the first question that comes to him is, are you really a Chippendale dancer? And I'm standing there thinking, this is going to fall flat on its face.
Go so
that
poorly.
man didn't drop a beat. He just went, no, they didn't like the way I hung around so long. Okay. Okay. They are all cracking up. The next question to him is, are you really Grace Giardelli? And he said, only on the weekends. You never know what you're going to get.
Gosh.
Okay. It was hysterical. The other one, on the other end of it, we're doing Mystery at the Earthquake Saloon for all of these rental car companies.
Oh, boy.
And this is in Roseville, California. And again, hot summer day, out drinking. We come in looking like Mom Pa Kettle. Because it's set in the 1800s. Yes. Okay, we have Miss Loretta in this big hoop skirt, and, you know, Rattlesnake Dick and all this.
Oh my
and
gosh.
so they're playing, and I'm just thinking, and they want the musical, and I'm thinking, oh my God. So I'm like cutting. And then the questions come, and the first question to one of the gentlemen, the guy playing Rattlesnake, are you a homosexual? And the guy that was playing Rattlesnake absolutely was.
Yeah.
And very, very open about
Yeah.
it. And he just went, are you a breeder?
Oh my God. And
that's
just
the way that
best.
show went.
Yeah.
And you just never...
People are wild.
You never know.
And it's so... I've learned with you, the gigs that we get, that you're like, do you want to go do here? I'm like, sure, because they're never what you think they're going to be. It does not matter what environment you walk into. Some of them, the ones you think sometimes are going to be incredible, are a little more like quiet and shy. And then the ones that you're like, oh, they are going to hate, they love it.
Right.
It's so wild. And I think, though, it speaks to the need for storytelling and how storytelling really can break the ice and bring people together.
Yeah.
So which story of yours that you've written is your favorite?
It turned out, it was my last one that I wrote for Royal Caribbean, which was called Twice Baked.
Okay.
And it's now a recipe for murder.
Okay. Oh, and I do that show all the time.
You do. And it's one of my favorite shows.
It's so fun.
Yeah.
Now, I feel like for some of our listeners, they're probably tuning in going, oh my gosh, murder mystery in this social climate.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of, we know a lot of things are constantly going on. How do you navigate and toe the line of keeping this very playful and fun versus making it, very... This could get very macabre, I would imagine, very quick.
All of them, they're comedic. All of them. We make fun of ourselves. We make fun of the characters. We've run into situations where people on Royal Caribbean, we had to stop calling it Murder Mystery at Sea and just Mystery at Sea. And even on Princess, they were doing a murder mystery, and there was actually a murder that took place the night of the murder mystery, and this woman's running down the hall bleeding, and they thought, oh, look, it's part of the mystery. It so wasn't.
Oh, no.
And, and in just the climate of what's going on in the world right now, we just keep everything very comedic. We don't take ourselves seriously. The most serious is the one we're going to do. This next weekend, it is more of a serious, but it still is comedic. But it's kind of hard not to be serious when the way that they spoke in Roman era wasn't as comedic. Night 2 is a lot more comedic,
right?
But night 1 for the murder mystery end of it, of who killed Caesar, is a little bit more heavy-handed. But there are some funny.
Some light moments.
You read night 1.
Yeah.
You wrote the mystery. You read for the character.
It's very...
Would you say it's heavier than most of them?
I think it's got a little more depth when it comes to like the seriousness, but I think you still play. It's very important for people to know. They're probably thinking to themselves, do you see a dead person?
No.
We do not see dead people in this, guys. Well, we don't see them in the murder mysteries. We might see them in other...
Right, and that's the other thing. I just did a market survey of all the companies, because I always like to know am I still being competitive, everything.
Right.
I like to do market surveys, and what I learned from the last market survey, and we went to a couple of other companies. None of the companies, there's not one company that does it exactly like we do it, and like anybody else. There's not one company out there that's doing it exactly, which is great, because there's enough for everybody out there.
Totally. There's enough seats at the table for people to do this. So on the performing side, I think it's very fascinating that you yourself have this like depth and breadth and background, and you've kind of built this baby. This is a big baby. I mean, this baby has been rolling down the hill for years. So what is your advice to artists looking to create in different mediums? You said something really important, I think, earlier about being unique and being yourself. But do you believe that artists should be running themselves like a business, just like you run A Touch of Mystery? Like, what does that look like on that personal independent performer level?
For years, I worked without an agent and without a manager and just did it myself. But I had the skill set of running a business, so I knew how to run that. But it's also when you're doing that, when you're representing yourself, it's even harder to not take things personal, not take the no's personally, not get upset with, because you can learn. I've sat behind the table and I've been in front of the table.
Right.
And I sat at a table where this person came in and they were brilliant. And they said, thank you. The person left the room and said, too short. And I'm thinking,
unreal.
It took me back to when I lived in New York.
Right.
And I went out for Victor Victoria. I was working at Viacom.
Yes.
I ran and got my number. I went back to work. I came back at the appointed time. The first words out of the stage manager's mouth were, Julie Andrews is 5'7" in flats, 5'10" in heels. If you're not taller than 5'10", you don't need to be here. And I'm like, put that in the breakdown.
Right.
And I said, why didn't you put that in the breakdown to the person behind the counter? And he said, because just in case we get surprised by somebody. It's like, that's just so... that's why I don't like to waste people's time. It's like,
totally.
This is what I'm looking for. But because I don't cast on type, I'm more open to somebody coming in and surprising me.
Right.
And then I go, oh yeah, that's perfect. We'll play it this way.
Put them in.
We'll just play it this way. So I would say if you're going to manage yourself, it helps to have an understanding of the skill set. It helps to have an understanding of the business end of it. It also helps to have an understanding of it may have absolutely nothing to do with you that you didn't get cast.
Right. It's not personal.
But it feels personal.
It so does. I mean...
When you know you've killed...
Yes. And it's just like there's nothing else you could have done because you look a certain way or you are or whatever. I went to a Disney audition. This was like a decade ago, and I flew out there, and it was my first time like really going, because I went to business school, guys. I did theater for fun, and then I meet all of these amazing people, and I'm like, you can literally make a living doing this. What am I doing? Why am I not doing this, right? And I'll never forget, to your point, I go out there. They had me there for 4 or 5 hours. They get to the very end, and they stand me next to this guy. In flat-footed in heels. This is like anyone who's ever done an audition, they do this a lot. You don't see it. I feel like in television it's a little different. Like they really mix it up. Like the height thing is not a thing. But
no, because they'll dig ditches for the ladies, or they'll put the guy on the apple cart.
Exactly. They'll film me from far away on a wide scope, right? Yeah. But it was just so heartbreaking to go through that whole audition. They're like, oh, you have a great look. We love your voice for this. Da, da, da. And then they put me next to this guy, and I'm looking at him, and he just looks at me and goes, sorry. I'm like, it's life. Well, and I think that's the interesting amusement of the murder mystery too, is our characters, all the actors that you employ, we look so different. And I
love that.
We vibe, but I feel like your guests really find someone and latch onto them usually. That happens to me a lot when we do the shows.
They just latched onto Barb the other day when we did Death by Chocolate.
Oh my gosh.
Catherine Cadbury, they loved her. She was a working woman.
She had like people like cheering for her. I was like, this is so wild. And I think, art mirrors real life, right? A lot of the stories you write, there's a lot of truth to them, right? Like people being disappointed, the love of their life leaving them, the business going sideways.
Yeah.
So is that like a big piece of when you're writing and when you're crafting these stories and putting them together? Like, are you really looking at these like real life situations that would compel people to be interested?
I would say I'm not consciously doing that, but as I'm writing about what I know too, or what I'm familiar with, or what I feel. A lot of it gets channeled through me too. I just start writing and it just starts going. So, but I would say yes, art imitates real life, definitely.
And I feel like people, it's why we love theater. It's why we love the movies, right? There's that character that you're like, I'm like them. This is me. This feels like me. So, Jay, in this very interesting, ever-changing world we live in, and God knows continues to surprise us, I feel.
Oh, yeah.
What really keeps you hopeful and inspired to keep creating art? Because I definitely feel, especially the last, 5-6 months, it's felt kind of like, what is the point of art? What is the, there's been funding movement, there's been places being shut down. People can't keep their doors open anymore. I think that's one of the biggest challenges. So what keeps you hopeful and inspired and wanting to do this still?
Because we need it. I'll go back to COVID, when lockdown. And I said, there's got to be a way to keep entertainment going. We need to escape. We need to be happy about something. And that's when I reached out to Lowry's and I said, would you guys want to partner? You do the to-go meal and I'll do the entertainment on Zoom. And we created the live stream. So we're kind of in that, in some ways, of always trying to find a different way to keep ourselves amused, because you have to laugh. If you don't laugh, this world is going to make you just
chew you up and spit you out.
Because we're in interesting times, which gives us a lot of fodder to write the mysteries.
Right.
But we need it. So I think what gives me hope is that in the roughest times, we start finding what people are really about when they show up for others. Or when they feel lost and then you say one thing to them and it just makes them laugh. We need it. It's needed. Entertainment will always be needed.
It's a part of our fabric, right? I mean, I love a good story. Nothing gets me more excited than when a friend's like, hey, can you call me? I got to tell you this story about what, and you're invested. And I think that's one of the things you do so well with the murder mystery. You're marrying that, art imitating life.
Yeah.
You really get people very quickly to invest in these characters. Well, what happened to her after this?
Right.
I had somebody say that to me one time. I was like, what do you mean? She's going on her Union 10, but the question remains, right? And I think you push the envelope and you make us think about that. Like, when this is all said and done, where is this character going? What are they doing?
That's why when we sit down and do the table read, I say, okay, here's the bio as I see the character. That's why I ask each of you to write your own bio to see how you connect with it. But then we sit and talk, and as we're doing the scenes, and I'll stop and I'll say, okay, so do you think, let's take Loretta, for example. Right? Here's a woman who's completely in love with somebody. Right. And he tells her to go pick up an engagement ring he's giving to somebody else. Right. When I'm talking to the tables, I go, I don't think that went over very well, do you?
I don't think most women would be happy about that.
Yeah, it's like, it's a woman scorn. So we go into the depth of it. It's like, how do you think she would feel? Right. So when we're looking at the characters, let's say, okay, so I know what I wrote, but now let's take it deeper. Right. What would happen in your life if that happened as Caitlin? Would you sit still for that? Because there's a part of Caitlin that is in Loretta. Absolutely. And that's what I tell people in how they can find to work with the characters too, is look at this character. Is any part of that character you? Then anything you can do to personalize it is going to help you.
Internalize it. Yeah. And use your life experiences. I think sometimes as artists, I've felt this way at times. Like, I have nothing to bring to the table for this, and it's like, but you so do. Like even coming and doing these shows, coming from your busy regular day, and being able to put on a show and suspend belief and connect to other human beings. That is the greatest gift, right, of art, is that we get to really connect with another human being. And sometimes they come up and say, I loved what you did. Like, it made me so happy. It made me laugh. And sometimes they don't say a word, and I think we're here for everybody. Yeah. So, Jay, obviously I'm a big fan because, hello. I mean, I'm not only a fan of yours as a friend, but I think on a business level, you work really hard. You do a great job of creating these experiences. So for my listeners, I would love it if you would look right into this camera and give them your elevator pitch about A Touch of Mystery and let them know how they could find your amazing company.
Thank you. Well, hello there out there in TV land. if you would like to experience something different, because it is something completely different and a lot of fun, you could come to atouchofmystery.com and look up our library. If you click on the Mysteries tab, you can see our library of 23 stories. They can be for private parties, for fundraisers, for birthday parties, for cruises, if you want to take a group on a cruise, for team building. We would love to create an event for you. Our elevator pitch is that we take the mystery out of working together. And that's our tagline.
I love it. I love it. And for all of you listening and watching out there, I will include all of Jay's information so that you can find him. You should really go check out his website and his social. He has some really fun things up. We have some really fun shows coming up.
We do. And if you want to see Caitlin as one of the divettes and vinettes in Deception at the Disco at Firelight Barn, that's coming up.
That's right. On June 6th, you can come see me with Jay performing. It's so wonderful to have you on, Jay, and talk about your company.
And congratulations on this. You are a natural.
Oh, thank you. Well, we're trying. As I like to share with others who have businesses, this business is tough. You know, you really have to put in the work and have the discipline. And I think one of my, observations from podcasting is I'm very blessed and very fortunate to work with an amazing producer that gives me the space and time to be able to do this. But it really is the stories, and my hope for all of you out there listening is that you take something away from these each week, whether it's a business advice, an aspiration, whether you're an artist or just an everyday person. We all have the capability and the power to do something extraordinary and bring something amazing to the world with our gifts. So, Jay Joseph, thank you so much for being with me today.
Thank you, Caitlin.
And for my listeners, as always, we would love for you to like, follow, and subscribe so that you can hear more of ordinary people doing extraordinary things. I'm Caitlin, and I will see you next week.
If you enjoyed today's conversation, please like, subscribe, and follow us at Convos with Kate on all social platforms. It would mean the world to me. See you next week.